The baby pointed at him and said a word no child that age should know. He froze. So did she. Because that word wasn't random. It revealed a secret buried for years, a secret that connected a lonely billionaire to an invisible cleaning woman in ways neither of them could imagine. And nothing, absolutely nothing, would ever be the same again. The city never slept. But on the 42nd floor of Kang Tower, at 11:47 p.m., the silence was absolute. Only the sound of a vacuum cleaner cut through the quiet, and the soft creaking of a baby stroller being pushed slowly down the marble hallway. Amara Johnson, 28, pushed the stroller with one hand while holding a cleaning cloth in the other. Her face was tired, her eyes hollow. But she didn't stop. She couldn't stop. Because stopping meant not paying rent. Stopping meant not buying diapers. Stopping meant failing as a mother. And she wouldn't fail. Inside the stroller, Zuri, her 8-month-old baby, slept deeply. Her dark curls covered part of her face. Her tiny lips trembled slightly, as if she were dreaming. Amara looked at her and felt her chest tighten. Just 3 more floors. Just 3. She pushed the stroller to the double glass doors at the end of the hallway. The sign read, Kang Jin-woo, CEO. She took a deep breath. That office always made her uneasy. Not because it was luxurious, but because he was always there, working, alone, in silence. Amara knocked softly on the door. No answer. She opened it slowly and saw him. Kang Jin-woo, 32, sat behind a black mahogany desk, illuminated only by the blue light of 3 monitors. He didn't look up. He wore an impeccable dark suit. His black hair was slightly disheveled, and on the right side of his face, 3 deep scars cut from his temple to his jawline. They gleamed faintly under the artificial light, like war marks. Amara swallowed hard and entered slowly, pushing the stroller ahead. She began cleaning the side table. He kept typing. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then he spoke. You brought the child again. His voice was low, cutting. Amara stopped. Yes, sir. I don't have anyone to leave her with. He finally looked up and stared at her, not with curiosity, not with sympathy, with contempt. You think this is a place for babies? Amara felt her face heat up. I know it's not, sir, but I need to work. And she doesn't bother anyone. She sleeps all night. Jin-woo tilted his head to the side. You think I care if she bothers anyone? Amara didn't answer. He smiled, but there was no warmth in that smile. I care about the company's image, and a cleaning woman with a baby pushing a stroller through the building doesn't exactly convey professionalism. Amara gripped the cloth in her hands. I understand, sir. He returned to his screen. Good. Then finish quickly and leave. She swallowed her anger and continued cleaning, but her hands trembled. Jin-woo watched her through the monitor's reflection. She was different. Not like the other women he knew. There was no fear in her. There was dignity, and that irritated him. Because dignity shouldn't exist in someone who cleaned floors at 11 at night with a baby in a stroller. He looked away, pathetic. But then something happened. The stroller began to move, by itself. Amara turned quickly. Zuri had woken up and was staring directly at Jin-woo. Her big brown eyes were fixed on him, not curious, not scared, knowing. Jin-woo frowned. Control your child. Amara rushed over. I'm sorry, sir, she just woke up. But Zuri wasn't crying. She was sitting up in the stroller, her tiny hand reaching out, pointing at him, and then she spoke. Her first word, clear, impossible. Appa. The room went silent. Amara's eyes widened. Jin-woo stood slowly from his chair. What did she just say? Amara's voice was barely a whisper. I don't know. She's never said that before. She doesn't even speak yet. Appa. Zuri said it again, louder, still pointing at him. Jin-woo's face went white. Because Appa wasn't just any word, it was Korean, for father. And this child, this black American baby who had never met him before, shouldn't know that word, shouldn't be able to say it, and definitely shouldn't be pointing at him when she did. Amara grabbed Zuri, pulling her close. I'm so sorry, sir. I don't know where she learned that. She doesn't watch TV, she doesn't. Jinwoo raised a hand. His voice was cold. Leave, now. Amara's heart pounded. Sir, now. She grabbed the stroller and hurried toward the door, her hands shaking so badly she almost dropped the handle. But as she reached the threshold, Jinwoo's voice stopped her. Low, dangerous. Who is the father? Amara froze. She didn't turn around. That's none of your business, sir. I'm making it my business. She finally looked back at him. His eyes were sharp, cold, but something else flickered behind them. Fear. Why would you care? She whispered. He didn't answer, just stared at Zuri, who was still looking at him, still reaching, still whispering. Appa. And for the first time in 10 years, Kang Jinwoo felt something he thought he'd buried forever. Doubt. Amara didn't sleep that night. She lay in her tiny studio apartment, Zuri asleep beside her, and stared at the cracked ceiling. Her mind kept replaying the moment. The way Zuri had looked at him. The way she'd said that word. Appa. Amara had never taught her that. She didn't speak Korean. She didn't even know anyone who spoke Korean. Except, no. She pushed the thought away, but it came back, stronger. Because 8 months ago, when Zuri was conceived, Amara had been working a different job. At a private charity gala, serving drinks, invisible, until she wasn't. Until a man with kind eyes and a soft voice had spoken to her in the kitchen, asked her name, thanked her, made her feel seen. They'd talked for 20 minutes. Just talked, nothing more. But when she left that night, she felt lighter than she had in years. And 2 weeks later, she discovered she was pregnant. She'd tried to find him, searched online, asked around. But no one knew who he was. And eventually, she gave up. Because what was the point? He was clearly someone important, someone far above her world. And she was just a woman trying to survive. But now Zuri had said that word and pointed at Kang Jinwoo. Amara's phone buzzed. A text from her supervisor. You're terminated, effective immediately. Pick up your final check tomorrow. Her heart dropped. She read it again. And again. No explanation. No warning. Just gone. She sat up slowly, her hands trembling. He did this. She didn't know how, but she knew. Kang Jinwoo had her fired, and she had no idea why. Meanwhile, 42 floors above the city, Jinwoo stood at his office window, staring at the lights below. His reflection stared back at him. Scarred. Cold. Alone. He'd been alone for 10 years, ever since the fire that took his face, his confidence, his brother. He touched the scars absently. Women had rejected him ever since, some politely, some cruelly, but all of them saw the same thing when they looked at him, a monster. So he'd stopped trying, stopped hoping, stopped believing he'd ever have a family. And yet tonight, a child he'd never met had called him father, in his language. He turned from the window and opened his laptop, pulled up the company's employee records, found her file. Amara Johnson, age 28, position, night custodial staff, emergency contact, none. Dependents, 1 daughter, Zuri Johnson. Age, 8 months. He stared at the screen, then opened another window, typed a name he hadn't searched in 10 years, Kang Min-jae, his younger brother, dead at 24. Jinwoo scrolled through old photos. Min-jae smiling at a hospital charity event. Min-jae in a tuxedo at a gala. Min-jae. He stopped, zoomed in. In the background of one photo, barely visible, was a young woman in a server's uniform. Dark skin, bright eyes, holding a tray of champagne glasses. Jinwoo's blood went cold. He pulled up Amara's employee photo, compared them. It was her. She'd been at the gala. The same gala where Min-jae died 3 hours later in a car accident on his way home. The same night Jinwoo had been trapped in a burning building across town, trying to save workers from a warehouse fire his company owned. The same night that destroyed everything. Jinwoo sat back in his chair. His mind raced. Min-jae had always been kind. Too kind. The type to stop and talk to staff, to learn their names, to make them feel human. And if he'd met Amara that night, if they'd talked, if something had happened. Jinwoo's hands clenched into fists. No. Impossible. Min-jae wouldn't have done that. He was responsible, careful, but he was also lonely and impulsive when he felt a connection. Jinwoo stood abruptly, grabbed his phone, dialed his head of security. I need a DNA test, discreetly, on a child named Zuri Johnson, 8 months old. Sir? Just do it. I'll send you the details. He hung up and stared at the photo of his brother. If she's yours, if she's ours, then everything changes. Because Kang Min-jae had been the sole heir to the Kang family fortune before his death. And if Zuri was his daughter, she was the true heir, not Jinwoo, the scarred, rejected older brother who'd only inherited by default. But a child, a baby, his niece. Jinwoo closed his eyes, and for the first time in 10 years, he didn't know what to do. 3 days later, Amara sat in a small cafe, Zuri on her lap, staring at her bank account on her phone. $147.32. That was it. That was all she had left in the world. Rent was due in 4 days. She'd applied to 12 jobs in the last 72 hours. No responses. She looked down at Zuri, who was playing with a napkin, completely unaware that their world was falling apart. Amara kissed her forehead. We'll be okay, baby. I promise. But she didn't believe it. The cafe door opened. A man in a black suit walked in. Tall, expressionless. He scanned the room, and his eyes landed on her. He walked over. Amara Johnson? She tensed. Who's asking? He handed her an envelope. You've been summoned. Summoned? By who? He didn't answer, just turned and left. Amara opened the envelope. Inside was a single card, black, embossed in silver letters. Kang Jinwoo tonight. 8 p.m. Kang Tower, 42nd floor. Come alone. Her hands shook. What does he want? At exactly 8 p.m., Amara stood outside Jinwoo's office, Zuri asleep in the stroller beside her. She'd tried to find a babysitter. She couldn't, so she brought her daughter. Again, she knocked. Enter. She pushed the door open. Jinwoo sat behind his desk, hands folded, face unreadable. I told you to come alone. I don't have anyone to watch her. That's not my problem. Amara's jaw tightened. Then I'll leave. She turned. Sit down. His voice wasn't loud, but it was a command. She stopped, slowly turned back. What do you want from me? He stood, walked around the desk, stopped 3 feet from her, and for the first time, she saw his face up close. The scars were deeper than she'd realized. They twisted the right side of his face into something harsh, permanent. But his eyes weren't cruel. They were broken. 8 months ago, you worked a charity gala, the Hamilton Foundation event. Amara's breath caught. Did you meet someone that night? Her heart pounded. I don't remember. Don't lie to me. She swallowed. I met a lot of people. I was serving drinks. Did you meet my brother? Silence. Amara's mind raced. Brother? Jinwoo pulled out his phone, showed her a photo, a young man with kind eyes and a warm smile. Amara's knees went weak, because she did remember him. The man in the kitchen. The one who'd asked her name, who'd made her laugh, who'd looked at her like she was worth something. We talked, just for a few minutes. And nothing. He was kind. That's all. Jinwoo's eyes darkened. He died that night, 3 hours after the gala. Car accident. Amara's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. And 2 weeks later, you got pregnant. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know. I ran a DNA test. Amara froze. You what? He took a step closer. On your daughter, 3 days ago, when you weren't looking, my security took a sample from her stroller. Amara's vision blurred with rage. You had no right. I had every right. He pulled a folder from his desk, opened it, handed her a paper. She read it, and her world shattered. DNA match, 99, 7% probability. Subject, Zuri Johnson. Relation, niece. Amara looked up at him, tears streaming down her face. No, this can't be. Your daughter is my brother's child, which makes her the rightful heir to the Kang fortune. $17 billion. Amara shook her head. I don't want your money. I don't want anything from you. That's not your decision to make. He leaned against his desk, arms crossed. My brother is dead, but his daughter is alive, and she belongs to my family now. Amara stood, trembling. She belongs to me. She's my daughter. She's our blood. They stared at each other. Two worlds colliding. Power and poverty. Legacy and love, and neither of them willing to back down. Jinwoo's voice dropped. I'm not taking her from you, but I'm not letting her grow up invisible either. Then what do you want? He was silent for a long moment, then said the words that would change everything. I want you to move in, with me, both of you. Amara's mouth fell open. You're insane. I'm practical. She needs stability, protection, education, a future. She needs her mother. Then come with her. Amara laughed bitterly. You think I'm going to live with a man who got me fired? Who invaded my privacy? Who thinks he can just buy us? I'm not buying you. I'm offering you a choice. Stay in poverty and watch her suffer, or accept my help and give her the life my brother would have wanted her to have. Amara wiped her tears. And what do you get out of this? Jinwoo looked at Zuri. Still sleeping. Still innocent. Still his brother's only legacy. I get to keep a promise. What promise? That I'll protect what's left of my family. Amara stared at him and saw something she didn't expect. Not cruelty, not greed. Guilt. He blamed himself for his brother's death, for being the one who survived, and now he was trying to fix it the only way he knew how. Amara looked down at Zuri, at her daughter, her everything, and made the hardest decision of her life. 1 month, that's all I'll give you. 1 month to prove you're not just another rich man trying to control people. Jinwoo nodded. 1 month. She picked up Zuri, held her close, and walked toward the door. But before she left, she turned back. And if you ever touch my daughter without my permission again, I don't care how powerful you are. I will destroy you. Jinwoo almost smiled. Almost. Noted. The door closed behind her, and for the first time in 10 years, Kang Jinwoo felt something stir in his chest. Not hope, not yet, but possibility. The penthouse was silent, too silent. Amara stood in the entrance hall, Zuri in her arms, staring at the massive space that was now supposed to be her home. For 1 month. The floors were white marble. The walls were floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The furniture looked like it belonged in a museum. Everything was cold, perfect, empty. Jinwoo stood near the window, hands in his pockets, watching her reaction. The east wing is yours. 3 bedrooms, private bathroom. Nursery is already set up. Amara turned to him. You set up a nursery? In 3 days? I'm efficient. You're controlling. He didn't deny it. A woman in her 50s appeared from a side hallway. She wore a simple gray dress and had kind eyes. This is Mrs. Chin. She manages the household. If you need anything, ask her. Mrs. Chin bowed slightly. Welcome, Miss Johnson. I've prepared dinner. It's waiting in the dining room whenever you're ready. Amara forced a smile. Thank you. Mrs. Chin disappeared as quietly as she'd come. Jinwoo gestured toward the east wing. You should rest. It's been a long day. Amara didn't move. Why are you really doing this? He finally looked at her. I told you, she's family. No, there's more. You don't strike me as the sentimental type. Jinwoo's jaw tightened. You don't know me, and you don't know us. Yet you're letting us into your home. Why? He was silent for a long moment. Then he said something she didn't expect. Because I failed him once. I won't fail him again. Amara's expression softened. What happened to him wasn't your fault. Jinwoo's eyes went dark. You don't know what happened. Then tell me. No. He turned and walked toward his office. "Good night, Miss Johnson." The door closed behind him. Amara stood alone in the massive penthouse holding her daughter, feeling smaller than she ever had in her tiny studio apartment. Because at least there, she'd been free. Here she was a guest, a charity case, a reminder of someone else's tragedy. She looked down at Zuri, who was awake now, looking around with wide, curious eyes. "We'll survive this, baby, just like we always do." The first week was unbearable. Jinwoo barely spoke to her. He left for work before she woke up and came home after she went to bed. When they did cross paths, he was polite, distant, cold, like she was a stranger living in his house, which technically she was. But Zuri was different. Every time Jinwoo walked past the nursery, she'd stop what she was doing and stare at him, reach for him, call for him. "Appa." It unnerved him. Amara could see it in the way his shoulders tensed every time he heard it. The way he avoided looking at Zuri directly, the way he kept his distance. One evening, Amara found him standing outside the nursery door, just standing there, staring inside. Zuri was playing on the floor with soft blocks, babbling to herself. Amara approached quietly. "You can go in, you know." Jinwoo didn't turn around. "I don't want to disturb her. She's a baby. She likes attention. I don't know how to interact with children." Amara almost smiled. "Just sit with her. She'll do the rest." He finally looked at her. "What if I do it wrong?" And in that moment, Amara saw something she hadn't expected. Fear, not of Zuri, but of himself, of failing, of hurting someone he was supposed to protect. Amara's voice softened. "You won't. Trust me." Jinwoo hesitated. Then slowly, he stepped into the nursery, sat on the floor, a few feet away from Zuri. She looked up at him, smiled, and crawled over. Jinwoo froze. She reached him, pulled herself up using his knee, and handed him a block. "Appa." Jinwoo stared at the block in his hand, then at Zuri, who was looking at him like he was the most important person in the world. He swallowed hard. "Thank you." Zuri giggled, and for the first time since his brother died, Kang Jinwoo felt something crack inside his chest, something he'd sealed away, something that hurt, but also felt right. 2 weeks in, things began to shift. Jinwoo started coming home earlier. Not much, but enough. Enough to see Zuri before bedtime. Enough to sit with her for 10 minutes while Amara made dinner. Enough to let her fall asleep on his chest while he read reports on his tablet. Amara watched from the doorway one night, her heart doing something complicated, because the man holding her daughter so carefully, so protectively, was the same man who'd mocked her in his office, who'd had her fired, who'd invaded her privacy. But he was also the man who'd set up a nursery in 3 days, who'd made sure Zuri had everything she needed, who looked at her daughter like she was made of glass. And it confused her, because she didn't want to see him as anything other than the cold billionaire who'd forced her into this arrangement. But he was making it hard. One evening, as Jinwoo carefully placed Zuri in her crib, Amara spoke. "She looks like him, doesn't she?" Jinwoo went still. "Yes. Tell me about him." He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he did. Min-jae was. Everything I wasn't. Kind, open, hopeful. People loved him instantly. He believed in second chances, in seeing the good in everyone. Jinwoo touched Zuri's hand gently. "I was always the serious one, the one who handled the business, the threats, the darker side of our world. He handled the light." His voice cracked slightly. "And when he died, the light went with him." Amara's throat tightened. "I'm sorry. I wish I'd known. I wish I could have told him about her." Jinwoo finally looked at her. "Would you have?" "Yes, he deserved to know. Even though he was wealthy? Even though you thought he'd reject you?" Amara met his eyes. He didn't seem like the type to reject anyone. Jinwoo's expression softened. He wasn't. They stood in silence, two broken people, connected by a child and a ghost. "Can I ask you something?" Amara whispered. "Yes." "Why do you hate your scars so much?" Jinwoo's entire body went rigid. That's not... I see the way you angle your face away from people, the way you avoid mirrors, the way you think everyone is looking at you with disgust. Because they are. I'm not. He looked at her sharply. You should be. Why? Because I'm a monster. Amara stepped closer. You're not a monster. You're a man who got hurt. There's a difference. Jinwoo's jaw clenched. You don't understand. Then help me understand. He turned away. The fire that gave me these scars? It was at one of my warehouses, a place I owned. I cut corners on safety to save money. And because of that, 3 people nearly died. Amara's breath caught. I went in to get them out. I saved 2. But the 3rd, I couldn't reach him in time. He died in front of me. And while I was trapped in that building, my brother was driving home from the gala, distracted, upset because I wasn't answering his calls. Jinwoo's voice broke. He crashed, died instantly, and I lived, scarred, hated, alone, exactly what I deserved. Amara's eyes filled with tears. Jinwoo, don't pity me. I'm not pitying you. I'm seeing you. He looked at her, really looked at her, and for the first time he didn't see a cleaning woman. He saw a woman who'd survived things he couldn't imagine, who'd raised a child alone, who'd kept her dignity when the world tried to strip it away, who looked at him like he was human. You're stronger than you think, he said quietly. Amara smiled sadly. So are you. The air between them shifted. Something unspoken. Something neither of them was ready to name. Jinwoo stepped back. Good night, Amara. It was the first time he'd used her first name. Good night, Jinwoo. He left, and Amara stood in the nursery, her heart racing. Because something had just changed, and she wasn't sure if that was dangerous or inevitable. 3 weeks into the arrangement, everything fell apart. It started with a phone call. Jinwoo was in a board meeting when his head of security entered, face grim. Sir, we have a situation. Jinwoo excused himself and stepped into the hallway. What is it? Someone's asking questions about the girl, about Miss Johnson, about your brother. Jinwoo's blood went cold. Who? We're still identifying them. But they know about the DNA test. They know she's Min-jae's daughter. Jinwoo's mind raced. How? We're investigating. But sir, if this gets out, the board will move to claim custody of the child, for the inheritance, for control of the company. Jinwoo's fists clenched. They won't touch her. Sir, with all due respect, they have legal grounds. She's the biological heir. You're only the acting CEO because Min-jae had no children. If they prove she exists, then I'll make sure they can't prove it. How? Jinwoo's jaw set. I'll marry her mother. Silence. The security chief blinked. Sir, if I marry Amara, I become Zuri's legal stepfather. The board can't touch her without going through me, and I'll make damn sure they never get close. That's extreme. It's necessary. Jinwoo turned. Arrange a meeting with my lawyers, immediately. When Jinwoo returned to the penthouse that evening, Amara was on the floor playing with Zuri. She looked up, smiling. Hey, you're home early. She stopped, because his face was ashen. What's wrong? Jinwoo set his briefcase down slowly. We need to talk. Amara's stomach dropped. Okay. He sat across from her, looked her directly in the eyes. Someone knows about Zuri, about her connection to my family. Amara's heart stopped. What? How? I don't know yet, but they're digging. And if they expose her identity, my board will fight for custody. They'll claim she's the rightful heir and that she needs to be raised within the family structure. Without you. Amara grabbed Zuri instinctively. They can't do that. She's my daughter. Legally, she's also my brother's. And in my world, blood means power. They'll use her to control the company, to control everything. Amara's voice shook. Then what do we do? Jinwoo took a breath. We get married. Silence. Amara stared at him. What? If we're married, I become her legal stepfather. They can't take her without going through me. And I have enough power to stop them. But only if we're a family. Legally. Amara laughed, a bitter, broken sound. You want me to marry you? A man I barely know? A man who treated me like trash 3 weeks ago? I'm not asking you to love me. I'm asking you to protect your daughter. Amara stood, pacing. This is insane. This is necessary. She whirled on him. You think you can just fix everything with money and contracts and legal maneuvers? This is my daughter's life, which is exactly why I'm doing this. Jinwoo stood too, his voice rising for the first time. Do you think I want this? Do you think I want to be the man who forces you into a marriage you don't want? I hate this. But I hate the idea of losing her more. Amara's eyes filled with tears. Why? Why do you care so much? Because she's all I have left of him. The words echoed in the massive room. Jinwoo's chest heaved. She's all I have left. And I won't let them take her. I won't let them turn her into a pawn. I won't fail him again. Amara saw it then. The desperation, the guilt, the love he couldn't express any other way. She wiped her tears. If I do this, if I agree to this, I need your word, your absolute word, that you will never try to take her from me, that you will never use this marriage to control me, that you will let me raise her my way. Jinwoo met her eyes. You have it. And when this is over, when she's safe and the threat is gone, we end it. Quietly, amicably. You get full custody. I'll make sure of it. Amara looked down at Zuri, who was chewing on a stuffed rabbit, completely unaware that her entire future was being decided. She thought about her tiny apartment, her empty bank account, her mother, who'd told her she was stupid for keeping the baby, her friends who'd disappeared when things got hard. She'd survived alone for so long. But maybe she didn't have to anymore. She looked at Jinwoo, at the scarred, broken man who was trying to save them both. One condition. Name it. You teach her about her father. You tell her who he was. You make sure she knows she was wanted. Jinwoo's throat tightened. I promise. Amara took a shaky breath. Then, okay, I'll marry you. Jinwoo exhaled. Relief, fear, gratitude, all at once. Thank you. Amara laughed weakly. Don't thank me yet. You have no idea what you're getting into. Jinwoo almost smiled. Neither do you. The wedding was small, private, almost cold. Just them, 2 lawyers, and a judge. Amara wore a simple white dress Mrs. Chin had purchased. Jinwoo wore a black suit. Zuri sat in Mrs. Chin's arms, playing with her toes. The vows were standard, legal, transactional. But when Jinwoo slid the ring onto Amara's finger, his hand trembled. And when Amara said, I do, her voice cracked. Because this wasn't what either of them wanted, but it was what they needed. The judge pronounced them husband and wife. No kiss, no celebration, just a signed document and a silent ride home. That night, Amara stood in her room, their room now, technically, though Jinwoo had made it clear he'd sleep in his office. She looked at the ring on her finger. Simple, platinum, beautiful, and completely meaningless. A knock on the door. Come in. Jinwoo entered, still in his suit. I wanted to make sure you're okay. Amara laughed bitterly. I just married a stranger to protect my daughter from a hostile takeover. I'm fantastic. Jinwoo's expression softened. I know this isn't ideal. That's an understatement. He stepped closer. For what it's worth, I will do everything in my power to make this as easy for you as possible. You won't be a prisoner here. You'll have freedom. Resources, anything you need. Amara looked at him. What I need is to know my daughter will be safe. She will be, I swear it. They stood in silence, 2 people bound by paper, and love for the same little girl. Can I ask you something? Amara whispered. Yes. Do you regret this, bringing us here? Jinwoo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that surprised them both. No, I don't. Amara's breath caught. Why not? Because for the first time in 10 years, this house doesn't feel empty. Her heart did something strange, something she didn't want to name. Jinwoo stepped back. Good night, Amara. Good night, husband. The word felt strange on her tongue, but not as strange as the way Jinwoo's eyes softened when she said it. He left, and Amara sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her ring, wondering how she'd gotten here, and wondering if maybe, just maybe, this impossible choice might become something real. 6 months later, everything had changed. The board's investigation had gone nowhere. Jinwoo's lawyers had buried the leak so deep it would never see daylight again. And Zuri was safe. More than safe. She was thriving. She walked now, wobbling through the penthouse with fearless determination, her tiny hands reaching for everything, her laughter echoing off the marble floors. She called Jinwoo Appa constantly. And he responded every single time, without hesitation, without distance, without the cold formality he used with everyone else. He taught her Korean words while she sat on his lap during breakfast, read her bedtime stories in 2 languages, switching between English and Korean mid-sentence, carried her on his shoulders through the building, letting her wave at employees who stared in shock at their cold CEO transformed into a gentle father. Let her grab his face with sticky fingers and poke his scars with innocent curiosity while he smiled, actually smiled, and pretended to be a monster she had to tame. And Amara watched it all. At first from a distance, protecting her heart, reminding herself this was temporary, that the contract had an end date, that she couldn't let herself fall for a man who'd only married her out of necessity. But then Jinwoo started doing things he didn't have to do, things that weren't in their agreement, things that made her heart race and her carefully constructed walls crumble piece by piece. It started small. One morning, she found enrollment papers on the kitchen counter. Empire State University, online business management program student, Amara Johnson Kang status, fully paid. She stared at them, her hands trembling. She'd mentioned, once in passing during a late-night conversation, that she'd always wanted to finish her business degree but couldn't afford it. He'd remembered, and he'd done something about it. When she confronted him, he'd barely looked up from his laptop. You're smart. You should have opportunities. Jinwoo, this is not up for discussion. You start next week. That was it. No grand gesture, no expectation of gratitude, just care. Then there was the trust fund. She'd discovered it by accident when reviewing some legal documents Mrs. Chin had asked her to sign. Irrevocable trust. Amara Johnson Kang value. $5,000 access. Immediate and unrestricted. She'd stormed into his office, papers in hand. What is this? Jinwoo had glanced at it. Financial security. I didn't ask for this. I know. But if something happens to me, you and Zuri need to be protected. This ensures that. No matter what. Jinwoo. It's done, Amara. Accept it. She'd wanted to argue. But the way he'd looked at her, not like a charity case, but like someone whose well-being genuinely mattered to him, had stolen the words from her mouth. Then came the business meetings. Jinwoo started asking her to sit in on strategy sessions. At first, she'd assumed it was for show, a way to make their marriage look more legitimate. But then he started actually asking her opinion on marketing strategies, on employee relations, on corporate culture. And when she spoke, he listened, really listened, took notes, implemented her suggestions at her. One of his senior executives had made a dismissive comment about her input during a meeting. Jinwoo had fired him on the spot. My wife's insight is more valuable than your ego. Clear your desk. The man had left, and the room had gone silent, because everyone suddenly understood Amara wasn't just the CEO's wife, she was his equal. And he would protect her the same way he protected Zuri, fiercely, absolutely, without compromise. But it was the small moments that broke her, the way he started leaving sticky notes on the coffee maker in the morning. Don't forget to eat breakfast. J. The way he'd carry Zuri to bed when she fell asleep on the couch, then return to tuck a blanket around Amara too. The way he'd started asking about her day, really asking, and listening to her answers like they mattered more than any board report. The way he'd defended her to his family. His aunt had visited once, a sharp-eyed woman who'd looked Amara up and down like she was inspecting livestock. So you're the woman who trapped my nephew into marriage. Amara had opened her mouth to respond, but Jinwoo had stepped between them. Amara didn't trap me. I chose her. And if you can't respect my wife, you're not welcome in my home. His aunt had left in a huff, and Jinwoo had turned to Amara, his expression soft. I'm sorry about her. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. You're my family now, and I protect my family. That night, Amara had cried in the shower, because she'd realized something terrifying. She was falling in love with her husband. Her fake husband. Her temporary husband. The man who'd made it painfully clear this was a business arrangement. And she had no idea what to do about it. Things shifted further one rainy evening in late autumn. Zuri had been fussy all day, teething and irritable. Amara had been up since 5 a.m. trying to soothe her. Jinwoo had come home early, something he'd been doing more and more, and found Amara on the verge of tears, Zuri wailing in her arms. Give her to me, he'd said quietly. You just got home. You're tired. Amara, give her to me. She'd handed Zuri over, and watched in exhausted amazement as Jinwoo walked through the penthouse, bouncing Zuri gently, singing a soft Korean lullaby his mother had sung to him as a child. Zuri's cries had slowly subsided, her eyes had drooped, and within 20 minutes, she was asleep on his chest. Jinwoo had looked at Amara. Go take a bath. Rest. I've got her. Jinwoo, you have work. Nothing is more important than this. Go. Amara had gone, and when she'd returned an hour later, refreshed and calmer, she'd found Jinwoo still on the couch, Zuri asleep on his chest, his laptop balanced on his knees as he worked one-handed. He'd looked up at her. Better? She'd nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Good. I ordered Thai food. Your favorite. It's in the kitchen. And that's when Amara had known. This wasn't an arrangement anymore. This was a family. They started having dinner together every night. Not because they had to, but because they wanted to. They'd put Zuri in her high chair between them and talk about everything. His day, her classes, Zuri's new words, the news, books, movies, dreams. Jinwoo told her about growing up with Min-jae, about how his younger brother had always been the light in their dark, demanding family, about how Min-jae had protected him after the fire, standing between Jinwoo and their relatives who'd whispered that he was damaged goods, about how losing Min-jae had felt like losing his last connection to hope. Amara told him about her childhood, about her mother, who'd been brilliant but bitter, who'd resented Amara for being born and derailing her plans, about working 3 jobs through community college before dropping out when the money ran out, about the loneliness of being invisible to everyone around you, about meeting Min-jae at that gala and feeling, for 20 minutes, like someone actually saw her. I didn't even know his last name, she'd whispered. I just knew he made me feel human. Jinwoo had reached across the table, taken her hand. You are human. You're the most human person I've ever met. Their eyes had met, and something had shifted in the air between them. Something electric, something undeniable. Jinwoo had pulled his hand back first. I have calls to make. He'd left quickly, and Amara had sat alone, her hand still warm where he'd touched it, wondering if he'd felt it too. The breaking point came on a Friday night. Zuri was at a sleepover with Mrs. Chin's granddaughter, her first ever. The penthouse was empty, silent. Amara had been studying in her room when she'd heard a sound from Jinwoo's office. A crash, then nothing. She'd rushed over and found him sitting on the floor, his back against the desk, surrounded by shattered glass from a fallen picture frame. The photo was of him and Min-jae, both of them smiling, before the fire, before the scars, before everything fell apart. Jinwoo's face was in his hands, his shoulders were shaking. Jinwoo? He'd looked up and she'd seen tears on his face. I'm sorry, I'll clean this up. What happened? Nothing, it's his birthday, Min-jae's birthday. He would have been 34 today. Amara's heart had cracked. Oh, Jinwoo. I keep thinking, if I'd answered his calls that night, if I'd left the warehouse 5 minutes earlier, if I'd been there to drive him home from the gala, he'd still be alive. He'd have known about Zuri, He'd have been an amazing father. His voice had broken completely. He'd have deserved the life I have now, and I hate that I have it instead of him. Amara had knelt beside him. Jin-woo, listen to me. What happened to Min-jae wasn't your fault. I should have saved him. You can't save everyone. I should have saved him. Amara had cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. You're saving his daughter. Every single day, you're giving her the life he would have wanted her to have. You're honoring him in every way that matters. It's not enough. It's everything. They'd stared at each other. And then Jin-woo had done something he'd never done before. He'd leaned forward and rested his forehead against hers. I'm so tired of being alone, he'd whispered. You're not alone. I've been alone for 10 years. Not anymore. His hands had come up to cover hers. Amara. I'm here. I'm right here. You shouldn't be. I don't deserve... Stop. Stop deciding what you deserve. You're a good man, Jin-woo. You're a good father. You're a good husband. I'm not a real husband. The words had hung between them. Amara's heart had been pounding. What if you were? Jin-woo had pulled back slightly, his eyes searching hers. What? What if? What if we stopped pretending this is temporary? What if we made it real? Amara, you don't have to. I'm not saying this because I have to. I'm saying it because I want to. Jin-woo's breath had caught. You want this? Yes. Why? And Amara had finally said the words she'd been holding back for months. Because I love you. Silence. Jin-woo had stared at her like she'd spoken a language he didn't understand. You. What? I love you. I love the way you've become a father to Zuri. I love the way you've protected us. I love the way you leave me sticky notes. I love the way you listen when I talk. I love the way you're trying so hard to heal. I love the way you make me feel seen. Tears had run down her face. I love you, Jin-woo. And I know this wasn't part of the plan. I know this was supposed to be fake, but it's not fake for me anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. Jin-woo's eyes had filled with tears. I don't know how to be loved. Then let me teach you. What if I fail? Then we'll figure it out together. What if I hurt you? You won't. How do you know? Because you've already proven who you are, every day, with every choice, with every moment. Jin-woo had closed his eyes. I don't want to end this, he'd finally whispered. What? The marriage. The arrangement. I don't want it to end. He'd opened his eyes and she'd seen everything in them. Fear, hope, love. I've spent 10 years alone, convinced I'd never have a family, never have someone look at me the way you do. Like I'm not a monster, like I'm just a man. His voice had broken. And I know I don't deserve you. I know I did terrible things when we first met. I mocked you. I had you fired. I invaded your privacy. I forced you into this arrangement. But you've given me something I thought I'd lost forever. What? Hope. Amara's hands had tightened on his. Jin-woo, you don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. If you want to leave when Zuri is older, I'll honor our agreement. I'll give you full custody. I'll make sure you're taken care of. But if you want to stay, if there's any part of you that could imagine a real life with me, I would spend every day for the rest of my life proving I'm worth that chance. Amara had smiled through her tears. I already told you I love you, which means I'm not going anywhere. You mean that? Yes, because somewhere between the fear and the anger and the impossible arrangement, I fell in love with you, with the man you are, with the father you've become, with the partner you've proven yourself to be. She'd leaned closer. I love the way you read to Zuri in Korean, even though she doesn't understand half of it. I love the way you've learned to braid her hair, even though you're terrible at it and the braids fall apart in 5 minutes. I love the way you look at me like I'm the strongest person you know. I love the way you fought for us, protected us, chosen us. Her voice had dropped to a whisper. So no, Jin-woo, I don't want to leave. I don't want this to be temporary. I want to stay. I want to build a real life with you, a real family. A real marriage. If you'll have me. If you'll let me love you the way you deserve to be loved. Jinwoo had cupped her face with both hands. His scarred, broken, beautiful face had been inches from hers. I'll have you, he'd whispered. For as long as you'll let me. For as long as you'll stay. For the rest of my life if you'll give me that gift. Forever then. Forever. And then he'd kissed her. Soft at first. Tentative. Like he was afraid she might disappear. But when she'd kissed him back, threading her fingers through his hair, pulling him closer, the kiss had deepened. Become something more. Something real. Something that felt like coming home. When they'd finally pulled apart, both of them had been crying. I love you, Jinwoo had said. I love you so much it terrifies me. I love you too. I don't know how to do this. How to be a real husband. How to be enough for you. You're already enough. You've always been enough. Jinwoo had pulled her into his arms, held her like she was the most precious thing in the world, and for the first time in 10 years, he'd felt whole. 2 years later, the Kang estate was alive with sound, laughter, music, the patter of small feet running through grass. They'd moved out of the penthouse 8 months after that night, into a house, a real house, with a garden for Zuri to play in, with room for the family they were building, with space to breathe. Zuri was 3 years old now. She spoke 2 languages fluently, switching between English and Korean mid-sentence, just like Jinwoo did when he read to her. She had her father's kind eyes, her mother's fierce spirit, and a laugh that could light up the darkest room. She ran through the garden now, chasing butterflies and singing made-up songs, her dark curls bouncing with every step. Jinwoo watched from the porch, Amara beside him, her hand in his, her head resting on his shoulder. She was 6 months pregnant, a boy this time. They were going to name him Minjai. So Jinwoo's brother would live on, in memory, in love, in the family he'd unknowingly helped create. She's perfect, Jinwoo murmured. She is, Amara agreed. Thank you. Amara looked at him. For what? For giving me a family, for giving me a reason to wake up every morning, for giving me hope, for giving me you. Amara squeezed his hand. Thank you for finding us, for fighting for us, for loving us when we needed it most, for becoming the man I always knew you could be. Jinwoo kissed her forehead, then her temple, then her lips, soft and sweet and full of promise. Always, he whispered against her mouth, for the rest of my life. Always. Zuri ran up to them, out of breath and laughing, her cheeks flushed. Appa! Mama! Come play! Jinwoo scooped her up, scars and all, spinning her in the air the way she loved. She squealed with delight, her hands reaching for the sky. Higher, Appa! Higher! Jinwoo laughed, a real laugh, full and unguarded, and spun her again. And Amara watched them, one hand resting on her growing belly, her heart so full it hurt. Because this right here, was everything. Not the money, not the mansion, not the empire, but the love, the family they'd built from impossible circumstances, the healing they'd found in each other, the redemption they'd both needed, the hope they'd given each other when hope seemed impossible, the future they were creating together, one day at a time, one moment at a time, one choice at a time. Later that evening, after Zuri was asleep, Jinwoo and Amara sat on their bedroom balcony, looking at the stars. Do you ever think about how we started? Amara asked quietly. Every day. Do you regret any of it? Jinwoo turned to her. Not a single second. Because every moment, even the hard ones, even the painful ones, led us here. To this. To us. He took her hand, pressed it to his scarred cheek. You taught me that I wasn't a monster, that I was worthy of love, that I could have a family, that I could be happy. You gave me everything I thought I'd lost. You gave me the same things. Then we're even. Amara smiled. No, we're better than even. We're perfect. Jinwoo kissed her hand. Yes, we are. And as the night settled around them, they sat in comfortable silence, Two people who'd found each other in the darkest circumstances and built something beautiful from the ashes. Two people who'd proven that love could bloom anywhere, even in the cold marble floors of a CEO's office, even in the impossible space between power and poverty, even in the scarred, broken places neither of them thought could ever heal. They'd found each other, they'd saved each other, and they'd created a new empire. Not one built on money or power, but one built on love, on family, on hope, on second chances, on the belief that everyone, no matter how broken, no matter how lost, deserves to be loved. And as Jinwoo pulled Amara close, as she rested her head on his chest and listened to his heartbeat, as their unborn son moved inside her and their daughter slept peacefully down the hall, they both knew one undeniable truth. They were finally home. The end.